Hi students, this is A. Mandri Kumar Rajesh. In this video, we are going to discuss the topic called bioremediation. Bioremediation means it is a process in which we are going to use microorganisms, plants and fungi in order to remove the pollutants from the environment. We can use this technique to recycle and reuse the solid waste, the wastewater and industrial effluents, because this microorganism or a plant or a fungi can act upon this pollutant rich solid waste, pollutant rich wastewater and pollutant rich industrial effluents, and it can degrade and it can remove the pollutants from that products. Then we can reuse, we can recycle that wastewater, that solid waste and industrial effluents. Then we can use this technique to degrade or remove the pesticide, insecticide, the heavy metal or petrochemical residues or oil in the environment. So it can degrade, it can act upon the pollutants and it can remove the pollutants from the environment. And this technique is very cheap and effective in more cases. Moreover, it is eco-friendly when the contaminants are in lower concentration. And they have given 3 strategies for bioremediation in soil and water. They are: use of indigenous microbial population as indicator species for bioremediation process. For example, Senidesmus, it is a phytoplankton, it is a microalgae which are present in the river water. If the population of Senidesmus is more, it indicates the water get polluted with the organic waste or sewage dispersal. So it is an indicator. So by using this microorganism, we can conclude that water get polluted. Then by using that same Senidesmus, we can recycle, we can remove the pollutants from the water. That is the second strategy. Bioremediation with the addition of adapted or designed microbial inoculants. So by using the same Senidesmus, we can degrade the chemicals which are present in the river water and we can use that polluted water. And they have mentioned designed microbial inoculants. So by using genetically manipulated microorganisms, we can degrade the we can degrade the pollutants. For example, Pseudomonas butida, it is a superbug, genetically modified organism. By using Pseudomonas butida, we can degrade the hydrocarbons, that is the petrochemical residues. So, designed microbial inoculants can use in bioremediation process. Then the last point, use of plants for bioremediation green technology. So we can use plants, for example, Eichhornia, for example, Polygonum. So by using this type of plants, we can uptake the pollutants with the help of root and we can uproot that plant from that environment so that chemicals present in the environment is uptake by the plant and that plants are removed from that environment. So we can make that environment free from pollutants. So we can use plants to remove the heavy metals or pollutants from the contaminated site, and that is the third type, and that technique is called green technology. Then some of the examples of bioremediation process, they are phytoremediation, mycoremediation, bioventing, bioleaching, bioaugmentation, composting, rhizofiltration, rhizostimulation. Phytoremediation means in this technique we are going to use plants to remove the chemicals from the environment. For bioremediation, we are using plant. Mycoremediation means in this technique we are using fungus to remove or to degrade the pollutants from the environment. Then the third one is bioventing. We are going to apply air or oxygen in order to speed up the microbial activity to degrade the pollutants. So bioventing means we are going to apply air or oxygen to speed up the microbial activity to degrade the pollutants. Actually, it is an aerobic process. Then bioleaching. By using microorganisms, we can derive or we can extract the pollutant metals which are present in the environment. By using microorganisms, we can derive or we can extract the pollutant metals from the environment, and that technique is called as bioleaching. Bioaugmentation means we are going to use genetically modified microorganism. For example, Pseudomonas vitina. So we can use genetically modified organism in order to remove the pollutants or chemicals from the environment, and that technique is called as bioaugmentation. Composting means the solid waste management or kitchen waste management. So we can dig a pit and we can simply throw the organic waste. So we can inoculate some microorganism. So that organic waste can be degraded by that microorganism and it become a nutrient rich manure. So we can use the nutrient rich manure for our agricultural purpose or our garden plants, and that technique is called as composting. Then rhizofiltration. The uptake of metals or the degradation of organic compounds which are present in the environment by rhizosphere microorganism. Rhizosphere is nothing but the root and that microorganism which surrounds that root environment, they are present in the root. So that region is called as rhizosphere. So the microorganisms which are present in the root are the surroundings of the root which can degrade the pollutants, that is the chemical and heavy metals in the environment, and that process is called as rhizofiltration. And rhizostimulation means we are using some substance, nutrient rich substrate. So by applying nutrient rich substrate, we can speed up the microbial activity to degrade that chemicals or pollutants from the environment. So applying the nutrient rich substrate, we can speed up the microbial activity in degradation of the pollutants from the environment, and that process is called as rhizostimulation. So that's all about the examples of bioremediation process. Then I'm going to tell about the limitation of bioremediation. Let us talk about the limitation of bioremediation process. The first point is only biodegradable contaminants can be transformed using bioremediation process. They haven't mentioned the non-biodegradable substance. Biodegradable substance can be degraded by the nature very easily. The non-biodegradable substances are very difficult to degrade by the nature and they are not easily degradable. So they haven't mentioned about the non-biodegradable contaminants. So that is the first limitation. Bioremediation process must be specifically made in accordance to the condition at the contaminated site. So we have to figure out the bioremediation process according to the contaminants which are present in the contaminated site. So we have to choose the bioremediation process according to the contaminants which are present in the contaminated site. Small scale test on a pilot scale must be performed before carrying out the procedure at the contaminated site. So we have to do a small scale test before doing that process in a large scale. So we have to do a laboratory work in a small scale. Then only that process will be more effective. In some cases it give a negative result. So time waste, then money waste. So to avoid such conditions, we have to do small scale just before carrying out the procedure in a large scale at the contaminated site. Then the use of genetic engineering technology to create genetically modified microorganisms or a consortium of microbes for bioremediation process has great potential. So genetically modified organism has great potential to degrade the contaminants. Then consortium of microbe means association of microbes can degrade the contaminants very effectively. So that's all about the bioremediation process. Let me explain the biofuel or algae biofuel. In some decades before, scientists were used sugarcane and corn in order to produce biodiesel or biofuel. It leads to the food crisis or energy crisis around the world. So scientists are interested and initiated algae biofuel. So they use algae to produce the fuel, and that algae fuel are rich in energy, and it is alternative to the fossil fuels. Then the most common used algae in algae biofuel culture is Botryococcus brownie. So this is the most common algae used in algae biofuel culture. Then I am going to tell you biological hydrogen production by algae. So in this process we are going to use the algae called Chlamydomonas reinhardti. The first step, sulfur deprivation in green algae causes reversible inhibition of photosynthetic activity. So we are going to reduce the sulfur content in that culture by using acetate substrate. So by applying acetate, we can reduce the sulfur content in the culture, the algal culture. So it causes reversible inhibition of photosynthetic activity. That means in the absence of sulfur, rates of photosynthetic O2 evolution drops below. It gets reduced. Those of O2 consumption by respiration. So it get reduced. Oxygen evolution get reduced due to the acetate substrate. And as a result, sealed culture of the green alga, Chlamydomonas reinhardti, become anaerobic in the light. Then it induces Fe hydrogenase pathway of electron transport and photosynthetically produces H2 gas. So this is how this Chlamydomonas reinhardti produces hydrogen gas, and it is a big process. If time permits, I will tell that methods which are involved in this process in order to produce hydrogen. So that's all about today's video. If you have any doubt, please clarify with me. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you.